When I use the word mysticism, I'm referring to a kind of experience, a kind of, shall we say, state of consciousness, which seems to be as prevalent among human beings as measles. It's something that simply happens, and we don't know why it happens, and although there are all sorts of techniques which claim to be able to promote it, and which are more or less successful in doing so, and sometimes rather less than more, nevertheless there is this peculiar thing that happens to people, and it's been recorded as far back in time as we have any recording at all. And that is coming over people the peculiarly convincing sensation that their ordinary sense of individuality, of personal identity, is transcended. And the individual suddenly feels an experience that actually it could be described from a number of quite different points of view. But we could add up these dominant characteristics. That instead of the ordinary feeling that I as an individual confront a world that is foreign to me, that is not me, in this kind of experience, I find myself to be of one and the same nature or identity as the world outside me. In other words, I suddenly feel no longer a stranger in the world, but as if the external world were my own body. The next aspect of the feeling is even more difficult to assimilate to our ordinary practical intelligence, but a very overwhelming feeling that everything that happens, everything I have ever done, everything anybody else has ever done, was part of our harmonious design. That there is no error at all. That's the sort of thing I'm referring to. Now, you see, I'm not talking about a philosophy. I'm not talking about a rationalization, some sort of theory that somebody cooked up in order to explain the world and make it seem a tolerable place to live in. I'm talking about a rather whimsical, unpredictable experience that suddenly hits people. And it includes this element of feeling the total harmoniousness of everything. Now, I realize that those words can carry with them a sort of sentimental feeling, a sort of Pollyanna feeling. There are various religions in our society today which try to inculcate in you the belief that everything is a harmonious unity. You know, things like Christian Science or the Unity movement and so on. They want to make a kind of propaganda for one to believe, and through believing to feel that everything is harmonious. Now, to my mind, that is a kind of pseudo-mysticism, because it's an attempt to make the tail wag the dog. To make the effect produce the cause. Because this sensation of things being harmonious is somehow never brought about by insisting to yourself that that is so. Because when you do that, when you would say to yourself, all things are light, all things are God, all things are beautiful, etc. Actually, by doing that, you're implying that they're not. because you wouldn't be saying all this stuff if you really knew it to be true. So this thing, the sensation of a kind of universal harmony cannot come to us when it is sought, when we look for it as something to be an escape from the way we actually feel or to compensate for the way we actually feel. It's a thing that comes out of the blue. And when it comes out of the blue, just like hiccups come out of the blue, it's overwhelmingly convincing. And it stands as, actually, the foundation for most of mankind's profound philosophical, mystical, metaphysical, and religious ideas. Someone, in other words, to whom this sort of thing has happened, and as I said before, it strikes us as measles may strike us. Someone to whom this sort of thing has happened can't restrain himself when it has happened, and he has to get up and tell everybody about it. And alas, he becomes the founder of a religion. Because people say, look at that man, how happy he is. What conviction he has. He has no doubts. He seems to be sure in everything he does. You see, that's a wonderful thing about a great human being. He's like an animal or a flower. See, when a flower buds and the bud goes pop and opens, it has no hesitation or doubts about it. Or the chicken's egg breaks, the flower buds. There's no doubt about it at all. It comes forth. And so in the same way, when somebody has an experience of this kind, he just has to tell everybody about it. Because you see, he sees everybody around him looking dreadfully serious, looking as if they had a problem, looking as if the act of living were extremely difficult. But from his standpoint, the person who's had this experience, he feels that they look funny, that they don't understand, that there isn't any problem at all, that he has seen from where he stands that the meaning of being alive is just being alive. And it's so plain, and it's so obvious, and so simple. And yet here is everybody rushing around in a great panic, as if it were necessary for them to achieve something beyond all that. And the funny thing is, they're not quite sure what it is, but they are devilishly intent upon it, after that thing. And so, to the person in the state of consciousness, which I call mystical, that all seems very weird, very absurd.
Here we are. Okay, welcome everybody. Thanks for being here. Happy Saturday to you. Can you believe we've been doing these things for 8 weeks? Really 9 because we skipped a week there, but 8 weeks. We've been doing this 2 months, and we have covered a lot of ground. And I just want to share with all you guys how much I appreciate your support, love. When I open this up to questions for the audience, for the crew, I didn't know what I would get. I saw growing up, my father received a lot of hate mail when he was doing what he was doing, because, you know, it's public, everybody has their own opinion. And so I thought, you know, the outlandish claims that I've made, that it would be an opportunity for people to totally blast me. But unbelievably, I received nothing but positive letters. People were incredibly kind. I mean, I was emotionally and am emotionally moved by it. Very thankful that my work here is reaching you guys. So I got to hold it together. So, okay. So I figured the best way to do this would just be to dive in. And what I'm going to do is I've printed out the letters, or I've got them all set up here. And then I'm going to read the letter, and then I'm going to answer it. And then the first few that we do are just going to be quick answers. I can get through them pretty quick. But then I got a lot of folks that were asking me, I think a lot of people think that I'm an atheist, and I'm not. I think a lot of people think that I hate Jesus, and I don't. I think there's a lot of misconceptions because this world is so polarized, and we learn to think in extremes. And this is kind of a lesser way of thinking about things, because when you think in extremes, it doesn't offer a whole lot of gray area there. And it's in that small line that's between the two fishes and the yin yang. That's really where the essence is. And so it's a new way of thinking that we have to take on here in this Great Awakening, and that we have to leave sort of these extreme positions that we've been in and find a common ground, find a middle ground. And so what I'm going to try to do here is bring some of that forward. I'm also going to show you that obviously I'm not an atheist. It's just that I don't think that a person needs religion or a belief system to understand the essence of all things. I don't think that you have to follow a rhetoric. I don't think that you have to follow a specific leader, a specific idea. I think the whole point of this thing that we're involved in is the experience of it. And your body is built for that. You are a sensorium, and your body is made to have the material experience. And this is to be enjoyed. This is to be expressed and totally delved. And so it's important then to not put on a costume, this idea that I've already missed it, or I've already fallen, or I need a certain way about going about the world in order to be okay and to secure my future. And this leads us down the road of ego when we go down that road. And I have tried to share that in my videos. Some of the stuff I'll be presenting tonight is former material that I've presented that I'm sure a number of you just simply haven't seen, because I've released a lot of information. I've released hours and hours of video. So it's okay if some of this stuff you haven't seen before, or if you have, I think I'll be able to go into this space with a sort of renewed vision. And then we're going to get into a little bit of, after that talk about spirituality, we're going to get into a little bit of the tarot. I'm going to be quite honest tonight, and I'm going to be sharing some of my life cards and core cards with you guys. And then that's going to lead us into some birth charts and astrology. I got some of those questions. Folks were really interested in my opinion about astrology, the tarot cards. That was a common theme in my questions. And then finally, I'm going to get into a number of slides that I spent a lot of hours writing. And I'm going to try and describe a succinct way of understanding why Western religion, why Christianity is not such a good idea when it comes to understanding this essence that fills everything, because it's an extreme position. And so I'm going to be talking about some of that stuff. So I appreciate y'all's patience as we walk through this. I hope some of these questions are questions that you had in mind, and we're just going to launch here. Now, this was one of the only questions I got that was in regards to the Ashkenazi and the Khazarian Jews. And so I had a long dialogue with Grok on these questions, and this was sort of where we ended up in the discussion. So here's the question: what is the difference between Lubavitcher, Ashkenazi, and Khazarian Jews? That's the first question. The second question: in my youth, I had a lot of Christian brainwashing from my family, who was also in a satanic cult. I'm sorry to hear that. Yes, I have done a great deal of dismantling what I was taught since '89, but still it's hard to cut all the ropes of my former training. It's like a knee-jerk reaction. I saw so much that was real. I don't think I could be unafraid if I was faced with one of their demons again. They instilled so much fear in me to either keep me silent or make me go insane. You may want to crop some of this from your questions for audience. Comments: yes, you have been revealing some very dark material. No one else is doing this essential but difficult work that I know of. I understand so much more with your teachings. Thank you. We will be here when you can take up the yoke again. Thank you. Lastly, thank you for introducing me to Christopher jerkness. He is a voice in the wilderness. Okay, and then to answer his question, Lubavitcher Jews, a modern Hasidic movement within the Ashkenazi Judaism, was founded in the 18th century and focused on mysticism and outreach. Ashkenazi, a broad ethnic cultural group from Central Eastern Europe, including Lubavitchers and diverse religious secular subgroups with Middle Eastern European ancestry, and then finally the Khazarian, a historical elite in the 8th and 10th century Khazar Khaganate who adopted Judaism, no direct link to modern Jews, despite speculative claims about Ashkenazi origins. And probably the best thing to keep in mind, and this is important, the best thing to keep in mind is that there have been a host of different belief systems that have constellated certain ideas. For instance, if you look at Christianity, there's going to be a Baptist denomination, there's going to be Church of God denomination, there's going to be a Protestant denomination, there's going to be an evangelical denomination, there's going to be a host of denominations that all constellate the central idea. And you will find this across the whole swath of things, because as people have learned about these belief systems, they have tried to figure out ways to shape their life into them. And so they have little sort of exits or sort of bypasses where they don't quite line up with the original source idea, but they're close enough to come within a denomination. And so you're going to see this across the way. And this obviously is true in Judaism. And so when you look at these different sects of the Judeo system, what you need to understand is they all go back, every single one of them goes all the way back to the Levant, goes back to the Semites, goes back to the Canaanites, goes back to that whole Middle Eastern field. All of them come from in there, okay? And so just simply understand your role, in my opinion, your role as a human being is simply to observe. Don't get caught up in the ideas of human beings. Don't hinge your life on them. There's nothing wrong with integrating good concepts from a good guru, a good pastor, a good mentor, or so forth. There's nothing wrong with integrating concepts, but don't tie yourself into them. I like to hold on to the idea or grasp the idea of a subscription. So I might subscribe to certain aspects of a religion or a belief system. I might subscribe to this and that, but subscriptions can be canceled. You know, you can change your subscription. You could leave the subscription at any time. Whereas if you're entangled in something and you've hinged your life on some of its core values, you're going to find yourself in trouble in this nature world that we're in, because nature really doesn't have any final rules other than just natural law, which are basic principles you can find out from Mark Passio. And so the whole idea is to be free, not to be tied down, not to hold on to life, aspects, beliefs of life, not to hang on to that, because hanging on causes anxiety. It causes blindness. It causes intolerance. And these are things that encourage separation, ego, and all the things that you don't want. In other words, you don't want to lead your life behind. You want to be free. And so this means your mind, since it's the navigator between the spiritual realm and the physical realm, this means that your mind shouldn't or can't be entangled, because then it's not going to give you a clean view. Remember, the entire universe is in your head. It's an illusion. And so what is in your head? Your mind. Your mind is in your head. And so it's your mind that is showing you, telling you the experience that you're having. You see, and if the mind has been tainted, if the mind has been poured into a vessel, the mind isn't going to be able to break out of those tainted aspects of the vessel, because it's caught in it. It's shaped by these things. And you don't ever want your mind to be shaped by something outside of your heart. Okay, your heart shapes your mind. Your heart, because it does its own thing. It doesn't listen to the mind. It does how it wishes. Okay, your heart is the spiritual aspect that shapes, helps to shape integrates reality, because the world, the real world, is spiritual. It's not material. It's spiritual. What we are in is a material enigma. Don't sink your claws in. Enjoy it. Enjoy the space. Enjoy the many beautiful characteristics of living in a body and experiencing this. Absolutely. But don't get caught up in it. Don't obsess. You see, if you guys watch me long enough, you're going to hear me come back with these common themes, these common quote unquote parameters by which help you navigate your life, but don't shape your life. Help you navigate experience, but don't shape your experience, you see? Because the whole idea is to be free. And that idea of freedom comes out of your mind, because your mind is the transmission. It's the mediator. That's why, again, it's in the center of the cross. It's the point of tension, because it is juggling the spiritual world and the material world. It's juggling these things constantly. And this is why it's so apt, so prone to anxiety, because it's a tough position to be in, to be aware of eternity, aware of consciousness, aware of the infusion and beauty that fills everything, while at the same time experiencing material reality and the hard nature of it, the pain of it, right? Being alive is painful. It's a burning experience. And so it's hard to accord something like that. And so this is what all these great teachers, and we'll talk about Jesus and all stuff soon, this is what all of them are pointing towards. And we just so happen to be in a situation where a corrupt group came into these belief systems and twisted them, especially the Western belief systems, twisted them up and made them something that they were never meant to be. Made them a set of rules and guidelines that, a club is held over your head. And if you don't abide, you're going to get crushed. God's going to crush you. And so that's where this whole idea of approaching God in fear came from. Because the natural world nature is unforgiving. You see, in ancient cultures, their God was nature. Their God was the weather. Their God was the plants. Their gods were the animals. Okay, and when your God is this kind of a grounded idea, this sort of costume grounded idea, life is going to be visceral. And you're going to face it. And so you're going to come up as a society like that with mythologies that are hard, that have a warring God, right? That prepares you for the fight that is life, you see. And this whole Eastern idea is according with that fire, rather than fighting it. And it's an entirely different concept. And so it's important as we walk along here in the Great Awakening that we keep a wide angle lens, that we don't lock into any tight belief, anything that's really going to, cause you to reject others, be angry at others, take out your frustration on others because they don't think like you see, and you can see the dysfunction in that. Okay. Let's go to another question. Where are we now? Here we go. Very dear Chuck, thank you for inviting us to submit questions. You're welcome. I have so many, but I'll start with 2. What are your thoughts on A Course in Miracles and Channeling? Did Jesus and Buddha exist as human beings, or are they mythical characters? I'm following your content with great interest and joy here in the UK. Yeah, UK. Heck yeah. I love getting overseas, man. It is such a rush. And it's a bit late for me to watch you live, but Sunday mornings are perfect. Awesome. Thank you for all you do to inform and create an open mind and heart to the mystery, wonder, and complexity of this plane of existence. Beautiful letter there, Katrine. Thank you so much. Now, what are your thoughts on A Course in Miracles and Channeling? Now, okay, let's talk about that. Why is my mouse messed up here? Hang on. Okay. So, courses on miracles and channeling. Now, what's going to happen when you go to that course? Right? You're going to sit down and you're going to be listening to someone who's going to be offering you all kinds of opinions and a world that makes sense to them. A lot like what I'm doing now. I'm just presenting to you a world that makes sense to me. And through seeing that world, you get a larger perspective by simply taking the time and patience to hear someone out. Okay, that's exactly what's going to happen at that meeting or whatever. And so there's nothing wrong with hearing their opinion. There's nothing wrong with hearing what they have to say and considering these things. And then this is the thing. Do you resonate with it? And if you resonate with it, go for it. Go with it. And you very well may find characteristics, gifts, and attributes about yourself that you wouldn't have discovered had you not risked trying. At the same time, there's no guarantee. Okay, it doesn't mean that what they're saying is true. It doesn't mean that what they're saying is right or that you have to believe it. It very well be a case where you go and hear them and it actually irks you. It actually upsets you. I'm sure there are a ton of people that hear me and they just get enraged in the heresy that I convey in what I say. Okay, so again, there's nothing wrong with these things. These are experiences. I'm a big believer in having vast experiences and not being afraid and walking into these places. But walk in with a wide angle lens. Make sure or ensure that what they're telling you, they're not saying, okay, this is the only way to think. That's what a lot of pastors and oftentimes gurus want to do, is they don't want to, they want to tell you how to think and what to think. Really, hang on, let me back up here for a minute. They want to tell you what to think, not teach you how to think. That's a good way to put it. So typically these places, in other words, are not open to a dialogue that is anti their counsel. And so you just understand that. It's okay if that's the way they are, it's fine. It just limits their ability to penetrate you. But the point being, penetrate your mind. But the point being that listen to what they have to say. Hear them out. There's nothing wrong with that. Hear them out. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to walk into these realms. Seriously, don't be afraid. Because you never know when something's going to resonate with you. You never know. That was one of the life experiences I had when I started risking and listening to Terence McKenna. And I started hearing him saying things. I mean, I was a hardcore Christian when I started listening to Terence McKenna. And I heard him say things and I was just like, this guy's crazy. He's got the spiritual thing messed up. And I spent years of my life, literally years of my life, trying to integrate the mushroom experience into the Christian experience. I tried to amalgamate these things. And I just did nothing but frustrate myself because these are two totally different perspectives of spirit. You see, and when you try and force things, you try and take what other people are saying and force them into your life. This is when you're going to run into trouble. Whereas if you resonate and there's a natural magnetism and you are pulled, my goodness, I mean, that's the heart working. That's the heart resonating with whoever you're watching or hearing. And it most likely will bring about new resonations within you, new understandings and insights as you grow and mature. You see what I'm saying? So yeah. And then B, did Jesus and Buddha exist as human beings or are they mythical characters? My question or my answer to that is, does it matter? Does it matter? Because I subscribe to the idea that sin is an idea that comes out of pathological people who want to control you. Right? So there's no sin basis, there's no fall, there's nothing to save. You know, and I've been rendering that in every one of my videos since I started this. So since that's the case, does it really matter if these figures are concretized? In a very real way, it's a lot like Obi-Wan Kenobi when he said, I'll be so much more powerful once you kill me. You see, it's the mystical aspect. It's their character. In fact, do I have? Yes. Oh my gosh, I have it. Here, look. This is what I'm referring to. Hermes is an embodiment of the philosophies and characteristics of nature in the same way the Buddha is an embodiment of loving compassion, or Jesus is an embodiment of atonement and grace. These figures are archetypes for larger principles. See, it's the larger principle you want to know, not the icon. It's the larger principle they represent that you want to know. Their philosophies are their emphasis and concern. Their historical value is the same value as your body. Zero. Zero. Your body's inconsequential. Your value is your soul, your spirit. Your soul and gifts are your reference and value in the same way concerns and emphasis are the value and essence of archetypal figures. And what do we have here when you ask here? Buddha, sorry, wrong question. What is happening? Here. Did they exist as human beings or are they mythical characters? They're archetypes. They're archetypes for a way of considering the world. Like you could read a book by Carl Jung, and he's going to give you all kinds of archetypes in regards to symbolism. These are a way of seeing the world. When you go to a museum and you look at the paintings, or you go to the library and you read the books, these are simply ways of seeing the world. And it enriches your life when you expose yourself to them. So, yes, it enriches your life to consider these ancient gurus and teachers. And there's many of them who wrote some amazing books that can help you see and understand the world. And in fact, look here. I spent 2 weeks trying to get this to present. There I was reading Cornelius Agrippa's The 3 Books of Occult Philosophy from 1533. And therein, in book 3, Divine Magic and Spiritual Realm, I found one of the key aspects of what I shared last week, right there under key takeaways. Book 3 is the spiritual peak, shifting from control to transcendence. And I realized that's exactly what I teach. I saw my own identity in this book from 1533, aligning the microcosm self with macrocosm God through love and knowledge. And that's what I aspire, you see. And so it's these hidden truths that they're everywhere. I mean, that book's from hundreds of years ago. You know, and that's why you give yourself to life. You risk. How are you going to know anything if you never risk outside of your belief system? How are you going to know anything? Honestly, in a very pragmatic, logical position, how are you really going to know anything if you spend your life obsessed in one religion? What do you really know? You certainly know that religion. Yeah. You probably know the Bible, dozens of verses. Yeah. But what do you really know? You know something, you know characteristics about the world and so forth, handed to you from an institution, which we now know as pedophilic. Okay. So just how big is the world, an institution like that? How big is the world that they can offer you? And I wrote an entire book dismantling. My book dismantles the core values of Christianity, totally obliterates them on practical logic, pragmatic thinking, basic experience. There's no theological attacks in my book because there's no sense approaching a theologian because they've already got the world figured out. They're not going to hear anything you have to say. And that's my point. If you're locked in, if you're obsessed to one perspective of the world, you're stuck. And this is really great. And I wanted to bring this up in the beginning and I didn't. Look at the way the world is now. If you're, okay, so let's look at the two perspectives that typically are going on right now. You have the whole patriot side, patriot movement, right? And they're the far extreme right, okay? Then you got the far left side, right? And they're the far left perspective of the world, okay? And these are the only two options that you're really given in this world. You got to choose a side. Now, just how big is your world at that point? If you think that you have to choose a side, or that because that side says one or two things you don't like, or that side says one or two things that you don't like, you're out. Not going to participate, out, check out. See? Going and approaching the world in extremes like that cause extreme reactivity. You can't methodically, logically, calmly, and without emotion walk into these spaces and objectively look at them. I'm not promoting either side. And you guys know that I've worked very hard to do that. I'm not promoting either side. I'm promoting the humanistic perspective. The perspective that is past the right, past the left, but sees that they're just one bird. This is one enterprise running things. If I tie myself into, say, hate of one side or the other, I'm now controlled by the side that I hate, because whatever I hate controls me. That's how that idea comes into your head of living rent-free in someone's mind. You're living rent-free in a ontology that's been handed to you. And you enable it because you go to that extreme. And I'm not trying to point fingers here. I'm just saying in general, this is what you're seeing. And this is the madness that you're seeing. Madness is the result of these extremisms, of these fanatics. And this is just a similar kind of mindset and way that comes out of the Levant, which is why I've been talking to you guys for months, years now, and saying you have to get out of this conflict-oriented idea of understanding the world, because as long as you stay in this idea of conflict to understand the world, you yourself enable the conflict. You're choosing conflict. That's why I said earlier, you don't want to get entangled. And that's the whole work of a controller, is to entangle your mind with theirs. And you see that in MK Ultra and how the CIA has worked. What is the CIA doing right now? They're trying to convince you that you're a dirty carbon generator. They're trying to convince you that the world is going to end and it's your fault. They're trying to entangle you in their world. So if you buy it, if you do things in regards to it, meaning, you think, I'm going to start paying more taxes and that's going to fix the carbon problem. Or I'm going to start driving nothing but an electric vehicle, so I'm going to fix the carbon problem. See, you're caught up in it. You're making your choices based on idiots that are handing you a fake world. That's why I went into the egregore, and I spent 2 weeks in the egregore. And I mean, I still got 100 slides from that I could go into. I don't even know if I will. The point being, that's why I went into it. To help you understand and see, 99% of the world is caught up in illusions handed down by psychopaths, egregores, monsters created in the mind of the public through ideas inculcated into the public. Inculcated means driven in repeatedly. And so what do you see every day on the media? Climate change, climate change, climate change, climate change, climate change. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's just constant. Racism, hate. I mean, it's just beaten into people because it works. And a mind that is caught up and obsessed, the mind that is caught up and obsessed can't think straight, will not be able to think their way out of the space because they're consumed by it. This is why all religions, all Western religions, are self-consumptive. They cause the person to obsess and do nothing but consume that one belief. That's obsession. That causes sickness and nausea. Because if you keep eating the same spiritual food your entire life, just what do you know? What have you experienced? What is the deeper insight you can offer? Because it doesn't exist because you're one-dimensional. You're looking at the world, taking the world, integrating the world through one ontology. That's why Cliff High recently has been on such an ontological trip. That's why Cliff is doing that, because right now everyone is finding out I've been under a jacked ontology. And it's my fault. That's the hard part. It's our fault because we believed the egregores. We believed the fear. We believed that fear was the beginning of wisdom, the beginning of knowing God. And my pragmatic response to that is, do you want your kids to fear you? Do you want your kids in any way, shape, or form to fear you? I certainly don't. I see myself as a sadist if I want my kids to fear me, and it has nothing to do with respect. Don't twist it like they try and do in religion and saying, oh no, the fear is a form of respect. No, we're talking about fear here. And there's a reason why they implanted that word so often in the Bible, that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. It's to make you obsess. Because when you're caught up in fear, when you're caught up in a specific idea and you have to hang on to it, you become the problem. That's the irony in the whole thing. It was funny. I posted a video. If you check out my X, I posted a video or retweeted a video. And the whole beginning of the video is watching, it's satire. It's watching two parents of a college student in her freshman year. And the parents begin to see her beginning to being indoctrinated into this whole culture that's happening right now in Western colleges, Western meaning American colleges. Okay. And so then the second part of the video is the parents come and take the kid who's being indoctrinated into this left position, and they haul him off to a right-wing college. And it's all nothing but Bible and John MacArthur and this kind of a thing. And the irony is both institutions are brainwashing institutions, both of them, because both of them insist that you believe them, because the Bible isn't asking your permission. It's telling you. You know, and that's what the theology is doing. It's telling you how to think or what to think. It's not teaching you how to think. It's telling you what to think. And the difference is beyond belief. Because if I teach my child how to think, they're going to think for themselves. If I teach my child what to think, they're a bot. And what are all religions doing? They're telling you what to think. They're telling you how to think. You see, there's no freedom there, man. There's no freedom. And pragmatism is going to be your escape from that kind of nonsense. Let's go to another question. Here. Hi, Chuck. How are you? Thanks a lot for taking the time. You're welcome. Please, okay, here's my question. Where between these two affirmations do you stand regarding shamanism? Okay, so here are the two goalposts for shamanism I have to get between. It's just a tool that you can use to evolve with no ill consequences. Okay, that's one side. It's an activity in which you need to taint your soul spirit to be able to deal in those realms. Okay, folks, listen. You guys heard me last week. The spiritual world, the soul, cannot be tainted. There's no such thing as fallen in holism. The spiritual world, which is the real world, is not tainted. It's not fallen. There's nothing wrong. This is the new kind of thinking to take on with the Great Awakening. Not approaching the world in a doom and gloom situation, but seeing it as a paradise. And in a paradise, there's nothing wrong. Everything's copacetic. It's all cool, brother. And this ease of approach to life is what's going to keep you out of anxiety and fear, because you're not holding and clutching and expecting and feeling entitled because you believe right. You see, egotism. And what was the other part of this? Okay. Do you stand? Okay, so you now know where I stand in regards to shamanism and going into those realms, because I don't see any of that as tainted. And then it's just a tool that you can use to evolve with no ill consequences. There is no such thing as risk, my friend, where there's not possibility of ill consequences. Nature isn't safe. Okay. So when you engage nature's medicines, that doesn't guarantee safe. There's no such thing as guarantee in nature. Get that out of your head. There's no such thing as guarantee. There's no such thing as security. These are ego institutions that your mind clings to because it doesn't like this ungraspable spirituality. The mind wants to structure and shape and hone. You see, but that's not nature. You can't structure and shape nature. You accord with nature. You see, and so when you take nature's medicines, of course, there's no guarantee you're going to be okay. That's the risk. What do you earn or learn in life that is not highly risky? Honestly. And when you're around people that really haven't been challenged and haven't really gotten their face kicked in a couple of times, I mean, how in touch with reality is that individual? Think of a person who is raised in a White Castle at the top of a illustrious hill and they live in a pavilion and a castle their entire life. Just how grounded in reality is that person? They've never faced adversity in their life. It's the facing of adversity. It's the risk you must take to learn anything that actually delivers the life that you want. Because nature doesn't hand herself out to anybody. Nobody gets a free ride, man. Nobody learns wisdom without costing their life, brother. Nobody. There's no shortcut path to wisdom, fulfillment, realization, rapture. These are costly endeavors. Get out of your mind the idea, if I just believe this way, I'm safe. I'm good. My eternity is secured, man. That's called living in denial. Because you and I know, straight face to face, you can't shape nature like that. Nature doesn't take orders. It doesn't fit into ontologies any more than your heart fits into an ontology, any more than your heart fits into a shape. Well, what is the world? What is the universe? It's a giant heart. It's a giant dose of love. So the last thing you would ever want to do is shape that. The last thing you would ever want to do to someone that you tell that you love, the last thing you'd ever want to say to them is, be this way, be like me. Do as I say. That's not what you say to your partner. That's not what you say to someone that you love, that you see it peer to peer. There's a mutual respect there. And so there's an understanding that every single life is different. Every single perspective is different. Nobody is going to fit into a one size fits all. Nobody. Because there's no such thing. There's no one size fits all in nature. There isn't. There's no one size fits all ontology. There's no one size fits all belief system. Sorry, man. The world is bigger than that. The world is bigger than a golf ball. And the whole thing these controllers are trying to do is to fit you into a golf ball, to put you into a universe that can be contained and grasped and known and realized in this one way of thinking about it. And that's crazy. That's like thinking every single person is going to think me attractive, or every single person is going to think of me as ugly. That's not true. There's beauty in all things. There's lack of attraction in all things. In other words, there's stuff that you're going to like about people. There's stuff that you're not going to like about people. There's no one size fits all. And we are emulations, expressions of nature, expressions of God. And the last thing you'd ever want to do is to fit nature into a vessel, to fit God into a costume. That's the last thing a rational person would want to do. That's why the argument is so easy against Western religion. They're irrational. They're one size fits all. And why are they one size fits all? Because they come out of a controlling, sadistic group that doesn't give a one iota about you. Not one. And so they twist the words of ancient teachers. They twist the history and concretize it. They twist your world. They twist your mind so that you will never, ever, until the day you die, know any truth. And you'll die fighting to be a sinner because you don't know any other reality. You'll die an atheist because you don't want any other reality but one that doesn't contain God. So by God, when you die, there ain't going to be a God. Okay, well, you're going to get what you want then. Nature's going to deliver that world to you. And you won't experience the rapture of someone who risks going into that spiritual field and doesn't just run from it and deny it. You don't grow when you run. You don't grow when you deny. You grow when you walk right into it, man. What are you afraid of? Why are you afraid? Did someone stick hell in your head? Did someone stick Yahweh into your head? Do you see? Life is not something to be solved. It's something to be accorded. It's not something to be structured and put into a form. It's something to be enamored of, to stand in awe of. Some of the best art you'll ever see is art that you have no idea how they did it. It's like a really good magic trick. You know? It's mysterious, and that is what makes it awesome, because you can't figure it out. And that's what makes life so beautiful. It's a puzzle you will never figure out. Never. Never. You'll never delve it. You'll never fully explore it, just like you will never see the whole universe. It won't happen, brother. It doesn't fit in your head. The only universe that fits in your head is the universe that you've experienced. Okay, let's go to the next question. Okay. Greetings, Chuck. Could you please speak to the recent passing of the Pope, and in your opinion of whether a conclave will occur, continuing the deceit, or will this be the end of the Vatican and their reign of control and power? This question stems from the recent USA discoveries of Catholic charities and their link to immigration invasions and trafficking. Yes, we all know that's true. Thank you so much for your voice of truth and your unimaginable courage to speak it. You're welcome, friend. Godspeed to our awakening. Okay, so if I haven't made this clear, I'm going to make it clear now, okay? Every single pope is corrupt. Every single one of them, okay? They're either participating in it, or they know about it and they're not doing anything about it, and they're not leaving, okay? So you cannot be, in other words, if I'm running the mob, if I'm a mob and I'm a family mob, okay, I'm not going to put a boss in the family, in the mob, that doesn't come from the family and that knows the family and is a part of the family. You keep it in the family. It's a mob. The Catholic Church is a mob. It has always been a mob. And they just simply take names and people and write history about them and do as they wish to make you believe whatever they want, because it's a mob. They are running the show. And what you are seeing playing out is the dismantling of this mob. That's why right now you cannot tell the difference between if we're on the road to doom or if we're on the road to glory. Right now, in this moment, right now, 2025, April 2025, you can't tell the difference, because both sides can give you convincing arguments that we're either screwed or everything's cool, man. It's just all being revealed. That's intended. That's to sharpen your discernment, by the way. And so the Catholic Church is being dismantled. The reason why you know what you know and I know what I know is because they're allowing these things out. Don't think that it's just chance and, hey, we figured it out. No. The world was controlled. Totally controlled. Okay? Everything controlled. Okay, so in other words, there's nothing authentic that you're seeing. You're seeing a play right now, and they're dismantling the mirage, the illusion, the world that they programmed into the world. And so right now you're seeing it's dismantling. That's why I know what I know. That's why you know what you know. That's why we know all about this corruption. We know about the island. We know about Maxwell. We know about all those characters. I don't want to say all their names because they'll ban my video. But we know about them. Why do you think you know about them? Do you think that that's chance? Do you think, oh man, we got them. We snuck in the tent and no, man. No. We were allowed to be able to engage at this level. There have been much higher tech societies before us that were utterly destroyed. We were directly in that same path of destruction, repeated destruction. We were on our way. And they would have never, ever, ever allowed the public to know what it does. COVID would have never ended. The reason why it did end is because of the information they were allowing out about it, so that the public could then create a means to stop it through pressure and awareness and so on and so forth. And so what you're seeing now is that being dismantled. It's all, in other words, it's all just acts in a play. You're seeing nothing authentic. The authentic thing, the authentic story is what they're hiding. That's slowly being revealed. Heck, I just posted a video on X the other day of this gal who has been down in the Vatican archives, and she was basically telling people, look, this world is nothing as the Catholics have told you. They're all lying to you. The entire Vatican archives is filled with books that are completely antithetical to the way the Catholic Church, has presented the world. This is why, by logic, I'm not a doomer. This is why. But at the same time, I'm not thinking, oh, we're just trucking ourselves into glory. Actually, no, we all have been suffering. I don't know if you guys have, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you experience this, but there have been many of us who have been suffering. Even though this plan has been being revealed, we're still suffering. But if you look past the surface glow and you start digging into the available information that you can now access as quickly as your home computer or even your phone, you can then begin to find the patterns of the truth of the way things have been, not the illusion talking about the way things have been. You will find the story, not a story, a story. Does that make sense? Let's look at another question. We're almost to the heavy duty part. Okay, I am writing, though, because I wanted to insert a question into your live stream this Saturday. I asked this question last Saturday, but you didn't make it to it. My question is, have you thought about creating curriculum for children? I have a 10-year-old son, and I want him growing up with the truth. It sucks that 3/4 of my life has been wasted with all the lies. After I had this question, I actually went to Grok and started developing a curriculum. See, that's smart. Developing a curriculum quite easily, and Grok seemed to be spot on in just about everything. Maybe I can start it with you sometime. Share it with you sometime. The KM always gets the children first. Yes, they do. Filling their minds with garbage and communism. Yes, they do. So it's my thought that this is an important place to start. I'll answer that quickly, and then I'll get to that other one, which is a tragic story. Absolutely, if you want to raise your kid and not have them become a bot for the state or a bot for the federal government, you're going to have to do it yourself. It's a lot different than it used to be. And honestly, there are some amazing communities that I've seen that, I mean, it's incredible. If you find a community that is conducive to that type of attitude, you can share the load and you can figure out ways of educating your kid without it basically being your full-time job, but it may well become your full-time job, because you can't, the way that society is now, the way the laws are set up, the way the whole system is run right now is so corrupt. You simply are going to have to take it into your own hands when it comes to your kids, and you're going to have to do the work. And if you can't, then you'll probably have to move or find a place whereby you can ensure that your kid is going to be receiving a reasonable education. Because I mean, I used to live in a place called Frisco, which is a pretty common, it's about 100,000 people town just north of Dallas. And I now see in the very schools that I sent my child to, I now see the curriculum that they're teaching these kids. This is in conservative Central Texas. Okay, conservative Central Texas. And I'm watching a gal the other day in a board meeting in Frisco, Texas, and she's reading porn that they're teaching the kids. It's literally porn. It's literally porn. And this is in the middle of conservative Central Texas, 25, 30 minutes north of Dallas. And that's what's being taught to the kids. You know, I mean, and you need to understand, remember what I've been saying, if your children learn things before puberty, they integrate those things after puberty, because puberty is when all the chemicals start flowing that cause them to start to think independently and to leave this adolescent relationship that they've had with their parents their whole life. And so, because a child is like a sponge, they absorb any environment that they're in. If they're put into that environment 8 hours a day, where they're reading and indoctrinating porn into their heads, folks, you're going to lose that battle. You're going to lose your child to those ideologies. You can't compete. It's 8 hours a day. It's inculcating it into the mind, and you can't compete with that. So you do have to come up with your own curriculum now. Maybe that will change with this awakening that's happening. But right now, yes, either that or you just got your claws, I mean, just talons deep into the curriculum, and you are meeting with the teachers and you are on it. Then I guess you could maybe consider that they're okay, that they're not going to be jacking your kid's head. But it's going to take a lot more effort than it used to, that's for sure. Then this tragic story. In listening to your most recent live, I was struck by your explanation of the cabal forcing an identity crisis on the people. Yes, they have. I believe I have shared some of this with you in an email, but I've had firsthand experience with this in my second-born child. He is 26 and lives close to you, actually in Portland, Oregon. That's the state below me. I'm in Washington. He is currently in the process of transitioning from a man to a woman. The communication with him was sparse at best. By the way, folks, I've received many letters like this. And the last time I laid eyes on him was October of 22. That is just tragic. Now he refuses to answer my calls. It's been devastating, as you can imagine, as we were as close as a mother and a son could be before he left. It's just so sad, man. It's what happens when a mind is taken. I have been accepting of his choices, but what choice do I have? It's really true. It's really difficult. Children around this age going through similar things, and we believe something very deep and strange happened with these kids after the whole pandemic, or it seems in 2022, yes. It is also not lost on me that this involves underlying mental health issues and trauma, yes. We lost his dad to a drug overdose in 2011. Sam was 13, and I could hardly grieve. He completely shut down at the time. My question is, how do you feel the transgender agenda is tied in with all the information you're currently discussing? I just appreciate your thoughts, and I have them. Okay, the way to see this whole transgender thing is as a religion. It's a transgender religion. It's a religion. And this is why those that are indoctrinated into it become so seated and hateful in anyone that doesn't buy into the indoctrination. If you've noticed, whenever they try to have just a common conversation, it always resorts to anger, lashing out. Most of the time, the person just walks away because they cannot think rationally. This is the key to understanding what's happened. They have lost rational thinking because they have anchored in, they have aligned to an ideology. And this one just so happens to be about gender. And so they, like any religious person, they have bought the edicts. They have bought the theology. That particular ideology promulgates. And that's what's happened. And this is why you cannot have a reasoned conversation with someone who has gone down this transgender road. You can't have a reasoned conversation with them because they can't think outside the bought scope. They can't think outside the parameters the state has put into them in regards to gender. It's like the person who's a devout Christian, they can't think outside the parameters of the God that's been put into them. And so they fight anyone that doesn't costume God as they do. So in the same way, the gender fights anyone that doesn't costume themselves the way they think is right, appropriate, whatever the case may be, loving, whatever. And within this person who believes that they are a source of love, both the transgender and the Christian, you have this seated hatred that is indoctrinated inside this person for anyone that thinks outside their box. It's a religion. And the tragedy is there's no reasoning available. The person who is caught up in a religion, in a belief system, the only person that can save them is themselves. They will have to awaken to the deeper truth. And that's why they have been purposefully put into a bot situation and they've been told what to think, not how to think. And so they can't think for themselves. Just like the highly religious person can't think for themselves. They think in terms of the religion. They think in terms of the indoctrination, and the genders are the same thing. They have basically followed the model of the Catholic Church. That's what they've done. The gender agenda has followed precisely the model outlined by the Catholic Church. They present the problem. They present the solution. And what's the synergy? You believe it. They believe it. The masses believe it. It's a Hegelian dialectic. Thesis, antithesis, synthesis. And this is MK Ultra mind programming. That's what that is. The Catholic Church is MK Ultra mind programming. It fits in that same model. The gender, the gender agenda, it's the same thing. It's a mindset, it's a program that is programmed into people. And so they can't think outside the box. And they become irrational, angry, spiteful people. And it's tragic. And it's because they've been caught up in a belief system that has, I always say this, that has made them non-human, because they no longer think naturally. They think as they've been programmed. That's not a human. That's not a human. A human thinks authentically, spontaneously. We don't have a mind so that we can be programmed. That's not why you have a mind. That's why you don't want to hand your mind to any belief system or any person. That's why you don't want to follow me. I'm just giving you options to consider, but leave me by the wayside as you keep moving on, man. Don't latch into me. Don't latch into my beliefs, just like don't latch into your pastor's idea. Don't latch into the state's idea. Don't latch into the government's idea. Don't latch into your doctor's idea, please. Be a human being. Think for yourself. Discern. Consider these worlds, but don't buy into them. You see? And so as far as what to do, it's the same thing that you do with a transgender child. It's the same thing you do if you have a child who's an atheist, or if you have a child who's a Christian or a Muslim or a Jew or whatever. You love them for who they are, and you try and show them a brighter light. But you're not going to win them over judging them. You're not going to win them over shaming them. You won't. You'll never win them over. You're going to win them over loving them, showing kindness and mutual respect. It doesn't mean you have to buy their ideas, just like I don't have to buy the ideas of a Christian to love that person. Love doesn't have anything to do with what they have in their mind. It doesn't. It's their heart, their innate, unalienable value. And we all have it. And it is through the heart that you win someone, that you show them another understanding. You're not going to be able to show them an understanding by beating it into them. That's why the line, the beatings will continue until morale improves, is a lie. Morale will never improve the more you beat it into somebody how wrong they are. You see? It's hard. It's hard to do that. I understand completely. It's hard. Hi, love what you're doing and appreciate it. Thank you. I'd like to know what you believe now. Are we in a simulation, a reincarnation? Thoughts on why we are here. I lost my Christianity during the COVID hoax, started listening to guys like Cliff High and you, and I'm wondering, what is the point of this earth? Thanks for any input. I'm going to get to that second question here in a sec, because that leads us to the big spiritual thing I want to show you. But are we in a simulation, reincarnation? Thoughts? Okay, so we are in a program because the world has been captured. So right now, there is not an authentic prevalence in the world, in life. Much of life that you experience is a programmed reality, is an illusional reality. It is not authentic reality. That's why in many ways you have to escape your life and world in many senses. When you go on vacation, and so you'll go out to a forest somewhere, you'll get out to where it's authentic sounds and birds are chirping and water is flowing and wind is blowing and rain is falling. You see, and that authenticity grounds you. And that's why it's so difficult to ground yourself when you're in the midst of a big city, when you're in the midst of all the hubbub and commotion of human ideas and technology. And so to experience the authentic, you in many ways have to escape the illusory reality that this system has programmed into you. And that's why it's escaping to the mountain, escaping to the forest. That's why going to these places reunites you to the authenticity that you are, and that is the world. But because the world has been made into an illusion, because the world has been made inauthentic to what it is, it's very hard to experience that. In much the same way, it's very hard to keep your mind aligned if you live in an insane asylum. If you're surrounded by insane people, it's contagious. And it's the same thing when you're sitting in a in a overwhelming and oppressing city, it's contagious. It leaches into you because we are one with our environment, folks. That's why they take a canned version of Earth into space, because we are one with our environment. You see, and when that environment has been tainted with illusions, tainted with man's ideas, you see, that makes you sick. Makes you sick. Makes your mind sick, and eventually your body's going to get sick. It's one of the reasons why I had cancer, is because I was living in a big city, in a suburb. I was doing the deal, doing the rat race. And it eventually, at least for me, made me sick, and I had to leave. That was part of my curing from cancer, was you leave the environment that gave you cancer. To me, that was obvious. That was just an obvious choice. But for other people, they just want to get better in their same environment. They want their life back. They want it to be the way it was. They don't like this impediment called sickness or cancer that got in the way of the life they were living. And what isn't realized is the cancer is there to teach you. Cancer is a teacher. It's a teacher, and it will teach you things you cannot see outside of it. It's valuable to you. And why is it valuable? Because it holds death as its power, and it's intimidating. And so you have to go into alternate mindsets to begin to accord death, to begin to accord an end that is coming, because that's part of nature. That's the cycle of life. And know your soul never dies. No one can for sure say what happens when you die. Folks, there's some folks that have some really good ideas, and I've heard many of them, but no one single way is it, because no one could know such a thing. And anyone that tells you they know such a thing is filled with their own ego, because nobody can define to you, describe to you the mystery. It's like explaining to someone an ayahuasca experience or a 5 dry gram mushroom experience. You're not going to put that into words, brother. Just like the value in my life, the value in my wife, whom I love and adore, I could never express to her enough in a way that she'll understand completely my love for her. It is past words. The world is the same way. Your heart is the same way. God is the same way. We all have to move out of these ideas of structure. And here's the 7 steps to better spirituality. Here's the 4 steps to improve this, that, or the other thing. You see, life is past these kinds of ideas, these kinds of structures. Okay. All right. So spiritual, the big question here. Hello, Chuck. I find your work interesting. It makes a lot of sense. I want to know if you believe in the spiritual world. Yes, I do. This is where I am. We all experience events in our lives that can only be explained by the existence of one, whether it is a celestial experience or evil. This is what links people in search for meaning and exposes them to manipulation and grift. Exactly. That's what I was just describing. So let's start here. Okay. Spirit, the real world, is the spiritual world. This is what creates density. Okay. You have to separate density and matter. Don't think of them the same way. Think of spiritual density, which you could never touch, but it's dense, and then matter and effect. So matter, your physical bodies, the planets, black holes, these bring about effect. Okay, so reality is the illusion created by the intermingling of density, which is spirit, and effect, which is matter. Do you guys grasp that? Let's go to the comments section. Let's see if you guys grasp that very basic principle. Just need a few yeses. I want to make sure you grasp it, because if you don't grasp it, I'm going to go back into it again. Okay, good. I'm getting yeses. Okay. Here we go. Yes. Matter is the sponge, spirit is the water. Okay, there's many ways to think about this. Okay, now with that in mind, okay, here's our beginning thought. Now, this is all from my nature series, in case you want to nth degree on it. This is in my nature series. Okay, so the first mind is the light of reason. Reasoning. Okay, the ability to reason in regards to this spiritual density that you can't get your hands around, in regards to these effective materialism that you can't fully control. Okay, so you begin to reason with them, and reason is the higher intellect. It's the one that sees through the landscape that you're looking at to the God principle that infuses it. That's reason. You're reasoning with the parameters, with the reality, non-reality that you find yourself. Okay, so reason, this is the first mind. This is Hermeticism I'm teaching you guys right now. Second mind is the 7 objective forces of creation grounded in natural law. And if you want a whole lecture on natural law, you need to go find Mark Passio on YouTube. And he has a series on natural law. I'm not even going to try to touch, man. It is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So if you want to find out more about natural law beyond the scope of this talk here, he's the way to find it. Natural law is the orderly sequences, the sacred geometry of creative bodies and worlds. So what would fall into natural law? What would you call a sacred sequence? Sacred geometry. Sacred geometry is natural law. And what does sacred geometry do? It self-organizes the density, the spirituality, the density into matter, effect. And we talked about that, the part of the ether. This unspeakable, translating, transposing force that manifests as sacred geometry. You can see it everywhere. You're built of it. I mean, you're covered in sacred geometry. The tree is built of sacred geometry. The planet's movement around the stars and so on and so forth. It's all sacred geometry. The formation of cells, the formation of the baby, the formation of your mind, all of these things fall within sacred geometry, okay? This infuses everything. This is all natural law that infuses the world. Natural law, sacred geometry is the density, the language, which becomes flesh, matter, effect. Nature renders the sacred vowels from whose combinations form the names of God. And what do we see everywhere when we look around? We see God everywhere because everything is a manifestation of God. And there's no words for that. It's something that you see in your head because it's not like things have a sign on that says, I'm God, this is God, this is... No, you see it with your third eye, with the chakra. That's where you see it. And see, it takes a sensitive person to realize this. It's not available to everyone in the sense of some people will refuse to see it, but it's available there for you. But not everyone is going to see it because not everybody is sensitive enough to have this kind of realization. It takes work, effort, pain to realize this deeper sense, okay? This deeper self-infusing sense that is the name of God. Okay, these together shape the demiurges, whether the demiurges matter, which are resistances to spirit. So what are the demiurges? The planets, the body, the water, the air, fire, earth, right? These are resistances because spirit is past matter. So it's like if you're in a vacuum tube in a train, you can go like 4,000, 5,000, 10,000 miles an hour because there's no wind resistance. There's no resistance. But this unseeable, ungraspable, like you're breathing it constantly, gas called air, I mean, look what it causes. It'll slow that train would never be able to go 4,000 miles an hour in that tube if it isn't a vacuum. You see? And so the spirit is there, right? But you can't see it. You see? And so that's what we're pointing towards here. It's the demiurges, the matter that causes resistances to spirit. Okay, demiurges matter, therefore, are the infectious effects of resistances to density, to spirit. The infectious effects. Isn't that a nice way to put it? A good way to put it. Because the natural world is infectious, is it not? Isn't it awesome to experience a sunset? Isn't it awesome to experience an orgasm? Isn't it awesome to experience an incredible meal? You know, a long drive and beautiful views. You know, these are sensorial, these are material, and they're absolutely beautiful, exceptional experiences. Okay, and it's because they are built of spirit. And in the same way, and this is the tough part, and in the same way, even your pain, your suffering, your heartache, this is also all part of the spirit This is beginning to understand the world outside of extremes and beginning to understand the world through an idea of holism, that nothing is missing, that nothing is wrong, that nothing needs to be fixed. Holism. And when you approach the world in that sense, you move past the demiurge kind of idea that something is wrong because you have material matter manifesting. No, nothing is wrong. This is an expression, a beauty, a characteristic of the all that is past the material. Okay, so this begins to help you see the world in a way of a paradise rather than a purgatory. And it all starts with these fundamental perspectives of how you see the world and how you see yourself. Because it's just an applique. When you try and say that you're one with the world, but you see yourself as separate from God without a relationship, you see you're living in cognition at that point. You're living in an incongruency because you're saying two of the opposite things. And there's no amalgamating that, because if I think I have to have a religion to realize God, well, then I believe in separation. Well, if I'm saying all the world is one, but I believe inherently that I'm separate, you got a conflict, you got a problem, you got a contradiction. That was one of the hardest contradictions I had to accord when I left Christianity, was that one, specifically that one. Having to come into accord with the reality that there is as much evil as there is good. There is as much density as there is matter. It's all the universe is a manifestation of all these things, and that's why it's in layers. That's why the sight layer is so small, because the universe is so much beyond, so much past even your sensorial experience, past the things you see, past the things you hear, past the things you feel, past the things you taste. Okay. The human collective is the outpouring of these sacred densities, geometries, which emerge from the potentialities of God. And I think that's pretty clear. The human collective, that's us. Okay. The human collective is a beautiful thing. The controllers don't want you to see that. They want everyone to hate each other. But actually, the human collective, when it hasn't been brainwashed, is actually quite a beautiful, cohesive existence. Because if everybody saw themselves as inherently good, and everybody saw themselves as perfectly fine and just living life and learning from mistakes and, going about it, everyone wouldn't be carrying around all this anxiety as though the world has to be gripped, the future has to be secured, the right God has to be worshipped. And this is why our whole collective is frantic. It's been caught up in itself and caught up with man's ideas and caught up with ego. Whereas ego is just here to have to be there in your experience of the natural world, which is a beautiful thing. Experiencing the natural world is a beautiful thing. And then finally, the last one. The human being then is reason, potential, you see, reason of your mind, potential of your experience and what you risk in life, embodied by way of natural law. You see these two things, reason and potential. Spirit, density, matter, effect. These are all embodied in the natural law. And what are you? You are an expression of natural law. So the perfection in nature is your perfection, is the perfection in you. You can't taint spirit. And what is spirit? Spirit is matter. It is densified into matter. This spirit is density, matter is effect. You see, and when you can see yourself, when you can see yourself in these ways, you loose completely from all the detrimental psychology that goes along with the idea of being fallen, that the world is broken, that it has to be fixed, that the universe somehow can't do it. It's not good enough. It has to be maintained. And these are less than views of yourself in the world. It will cause contempt eventually. You believe the world is fallen and yourself is fallen, it eventually causes contempt. Why would it not? Okay. So then a radiance emerges out of the ocean of mind. Okay. That's the radiance, the light. What are the words I'm saying to you right now? The radiance, the light that is within me animating you is coming out through my voice, and it is radiating the space. And what I'm doing is I'm bringing new information, new light, a new radiation for the environment, for the world that you are in. Okay, you see, this is exactly what Hermeticism is talking about here. A radiance emerges out of the ocean of mind. The ocean has limitless potential, just like you. Radiance or consciousness permeates all space from the innards of quarks to the singularity of the black hole. These forms are radiance masquerading as time and space. Can you see it? This is radiance. This is radiance. Even to see, can you get in the mindset of even darkness? The darkness of the universe, when you look out into the sky, is a radiance. It's a kind of radiance. Just like the stars sparkling, the planets reflecting, it's a radiance. It's a similar kind of radiance that you're getting from the darkness. In fact, they work hand in hand, because when the sky is bright, I can't see the stars. So the radiance of the night intermingles with the radiance of the light. See, and this amalgamates reality. This amalgamates the world. This creates natural law. This creates sacred geometry. Do you see it? And out of these voids, out of this endless light and this endless darkness, what do you get? Here and now, this. You see, and the controllers never want you to see it this clearly. Radiance informs all things, moves all things, radiates within all things. Radiance can be seen through reason, and reason takes upon itself the power of awareness. And that is a responsibility, isn't it, folks? Isn't awareness a huge responsibility? That's why you have to merit it. That's why nature doesn't hand it to you. You need to go through the initiation rite to know that information. Because if you don't go through the initiation, you will not be able to handle that information. That's why the soft Christian can't hear my words. They haven't gone through the initiation. And then they'll be able to hear words that are heretical, because they're no longer taken with fear. They're no longer taken with this idea that they're right. They've moved out of the space of extremism. You see, and that's how you're going to be able to understand the world more lucidly, is to move out of these extreme perspectives of it. How are you going to be lucidly able to see the world if you're living in an extreme perspective, either left, right, or religious? How are you going to see it? You're not going to see it for what it's worth. You're not. You're going to see it through the lens of your expectation, of your assumption. And that's common sense. I'm not selling you an idea here. That's common sense that you can find that in. Okay. Reason is the bringer of light, and light is wisdom, is it not? Compassion and creation. Creation is love. I mean, does the sun enlivens the entire earth is creation. Creates the flower, grows the child. Creation is love made manifest. For creation possesses the question only love can answer. Who am I? And who are you, my friend? You are the 7 principles of Hermeticism. Part of you is, at least. Mentalism, vibration, polarity, correspondence, rhythm, cause and effect, gender. These are all effects. Did you notice that? Look at our little chart here. They're all effects based in spirit. Do you see that right there in the center? Spirit, density, matter, effect. Okay. These are right here on the left. You see? Mentalism, vibration, polarity, correspondence, rhythm, cause and effect, gender. These are effects. And they're beautiful. And I already read the bottom portion. This is Hermeticism. And finally, to answer the spiritual question, am I spiritual? This is all the kind of things that I meditate on. Transmutation, the action of changing or the state of being changed into another form. And is that not one of the major experiences of life, is your transformation? You're moving, that you've done this already, moving from an adolescent perspective to an adult perspective. Is that not a transformation? And did that not transform your entire perspective and outlook in life? Leaving behind the cares and worries of an adolescent and taking on the quote unquote cares and worries of an adult. That's a transformation. And it's the same thing with the Great Awakening. It is a transformation. We are moving out of adolescent perspectives of the world, adolescent narratives that have held us in a context, that have held us in a prison. And we're moving out of that in the same way the kid finally leaves the house. He leaves that quote unquote prison where, you know, his parents have lovingly and so on and so forth, hopefully raised them. Well, they eventually have to leave the house. If they don't leave the house, they stay a child. They'll stay in this mindset of not having any kind of independent thought, because they'll still be in the same space of tutelage that they were when they were a little child. And you have to leave that space if you want to grow up. So if you want to grow up in the Great Awakening, you're going to have to leave the ontology, the belief system that has carried you to this point. And that's the transcendence. And what greater experience can you have as a human being than to transcend? To transcend the old way of thinking, the old way of taking on the world, and moving into this transcended idea that is past that old way of thinking, that old way of seeing the world, and allowing nature, allowing the world to grow, just like you want your child to pursue their gifts, their interests, not yours, theirs. You want them to pursue their own gifts, because then their beauty, their majesty can come out. And nature is the same way. We are here to experience. That is the bounty. Experience is the bounty that nature gathers from you. This is the joy and art you bring to life. You bring to nature, is this expression that nature has placed inside of you. Can you see that? We're going to get a little bit deeper into that. And so that's what this transmutation is pointing towards. Transmute vice into virtue. We return to the viceless state when we do inner work by according our pains through nature's features, exactly, through what we learn. This is why Cancer is a gift. It's a gift. It will teach you. It will teach you probably better than most teachers you will ever meet. That's been my experience, because Cancer taught me the deepest principles that were unavailable to me when I wasn't under threat of death. It was the threat of death that brought about my, holy smokes, I have to think of this differently or I'm going to die in fear of death. I'm going to die running from death because I don't understand it. Or I'm going to die running. I'm going to die clinging to a belief system because I don't understand death. And so Cancer said, here you go, Chuck. Here's death. And every night when I went to bed, I didn't know if I was going to wake up the next morning because I rejected all the advisors that I was getting from the West. And I faced that consequence, and I had to learn, you will have to be at peace if you want to sleep. That's the hard lesson of nature, the merciless lesson. You will have to learn to sleep within the threat of death if you want to really live, if you want to be free. Cancer taught me that. That's a friend, my friend. Even though it's trying to kill me, if I accord with it and I don't run from it, I can learn from it. I can learn from it. And what is going to teach me the most valuable lessons in my life? Death. That's why all mythologies are obsessed with it. It is the greatest teacher. It will show you aspects of the world which you cannot see without it. And this is valuable to you because you can shape your life around that, because you got a bigger perspective. Transmute fear into knowledge. It's also part of conquering fear. We know through experience, not programming, and we understand through contrast, not conflict. That's pretty self-explanatory. Transmute death into life. We inspire life when we accord death, like the sun inspires seasons according the earth, or the moon inspires tides according the ocean. You are to do this in the same way. You transmute death into life. So what did I do? I transmuted death, Cancer, and I've transmuted it into life. And the things that I'm saying to you right now, and the letters that I've received from many of you saying, Chuck, your words have transformed my perspective. That couldn't have happened if I was still afraid. I wouldn't be able to share these things with you. I wouldn't be able to illumine these rooms with you if I hadn't walked into that space. That's why when death is a motivation in a religion, you know something's wrong, because the religion is going to try to make you obfuscate death. I've got my get out of jail free card. I'm all good. Don't got to worry about death now. I said the right prayer. Do you see the thinness of that? It's thin because the person hasn't transcended the idea that was put into them of going to hell, of dying. They haven't transcended the idea. And so they cling to the assurity the ontology is handing them, which is a mind game. That doesn't come from nature. That comes from a human being talking to your mind and telling your mind things to think. You see the common theme of what I'm pointing towards here. Now, let's look at some astrology. Hi, Chuck. I thoroughly enjoy your presentations. I have watched everything you have produced, and some I have watched 2 to 3 times. Wow, thank you very much. I resonate with everything you talk about, and I look forward to your presentation on tarot and astrology. You betcha, I'd love to do it. Do you have any particular books that you can recommend on these subjects? Finally, my question is, do you think we will ever be rid of the evil that runs our government? Yes. Education? Yes. Medical pharmaceuticals? Yes, I do. Thanks again, and I look forward to listening to your presentation on Saturday. The one-stop shop for tarot and astrology is Manly P. Hall. You will spend, I'm right now in the midst of listening to his lectures. There are hundreds of lectures from him, and I am attempting to exhaust what he has to say, and I've yet to get there. He is an amazing orator. Amazing. His expositions are incredible. The level that he talks at and what he is able to bring to the table is magnificent. In fact, this slide here, a lot of that comes out of Manly Hall. This concept here came out of Manly Hall. This concept here, that's more my idea, but some of it came out of Manly Hall. So just so you know, he has been a stalwart when it comes to understanding tarot, Hermeticism, ancient alchemy. He's been a bastion of truth for me. Just an amazing bastion of truth. Okay, so to talk really quickly, or to get started here. Okay, now, I don't know how many of you heard my spiel when it comes to when you're born and the soul incarnating, but the major point I want you to know from the concept is, when you are conceived in your mother and you grow inside your mama's tummy, you are affected as a little baby by the electromagnetics that are coursing through mama, that are coursing through the earth, that are coursing through the solar system and the universe. They affect you. And just like wind affects the train and you don't see the wind, okay, electromagnetics affect the baby and you don't see the electromagnetics. But they affect and they cause, depending on the location of the planet, the location of the sun, the location of the earth, the location of the moon, all of these are magnetizers. They're magnetism. They're based on magnetism. They're electromagnetic charged structures. And they exude electromagnetic radiation, gravity, light, all kinds of radiation and function that affect the planet. In fact, you guys have seen this map 1,000 times. Okay, we are affected by our movement along the accretion disk that is the galaxy, okay? That affects us, and our planet's moving in and out of the resonation of that disk affects history, affects the world, causes earthquakes, causes rain and storms, causes all kinds of weather change, causes all kinds of adjustments to how the earth accords this moving in and out of that radiation, okay? And you are the same way. And as your cells are gathering and forming in mama's tummy, as you build yourself as a baby, as these things build themselves and grow, okay, they're affected by the vibration, the energy of your mom. Is she depressed? Is she happy? Is she really sick or is she healthy? These things affect the baby. And then where she lives on the planet affects what radiation, the ley lines that are affecting her in her magnetism, the location of the planets, okay? That's where this whole idea of vibration and astrology comes out of, that we are affected as electromagnetic beings. We are affected as we grow by the electromagnetics that constellate us. And so the ancient people figured out ways of understanding, well, the type of energy that's coming off of Mars is a war type of energy. And the type of energy that's coming off of Venus is a female, light, emergent kind of energy. And the kind of energy that's coming off of Mercury is this communicative energy, hot energy, because Mercury is that close to the sun. It's getting all kinds of information constantly. It's hot. Venus is hot. It radiates that heat, the magnetism that's contained in the female form. And you begin to understand how people, ancient people, began to see themselves as soul beings, as affected by these planets and these experiences that affect the soul, affect in the sense of giving it characteristics, giving it resonations. Just like when you hear a piece of music that you really like, you're going to start to move and boogie to it, because it's affecting you. You are resonating with it. Whereas when you hear music you don't like, you're like, shut that crap off, because it lowers your vibration. Folks, you're an electromagnetic being. You are affected by these things. You can walk into a building and just the building itself and its shape, you'll go in there and say, you know what, this is jacked, I'm out of here. You'll go into another building and it's a certain kind of way that you like and you resonate with it. Man, I want to get in deeper and deeper into the building. It's because you're electromagnetically charged. It's why that you like that food and you don't like that food. These were not things you decided. These are things you found out. That's why you are attracted to that person and are not attracted to that other, because we are electromagnetically affected. And it's the same thing with the baby. And the baby, as it's growing in mama's tummy, is affected by these energies. And it causes the baby to have certain kinds of characteristics because these are resonating, because my Mercury's in Gemini, or my Venus is in Pluto, whatever the case may be. These energies are maximizing because of the location of these planets and the location of your mama and her energy vibration. Just how in touch with spirit is she? Like my mom, she told me every single day she was pregnant with me, she prayed every day I would be a spitting image of my father, that I would preach like him, act like him, be like him. And my mother, who is basically forming me, she is instilling this energy into me because she's thinking it, being it, feeling it, wanting it. And this generates power. You have these potentials in you. You magnetate what you want to yourself by resonating in it. That's why a depressed person magnetates depression to themselves. And they have to change their vibration to begin to stop that, because we are electromagnetic beings. And this has been ignored in mainstream media and science, but it's real. And ancient people mapped out, when these things are in these positions, this is what is happening typically on Earth. This is what these people typically come out as. I'm a Gemini. I'm a communicator. I can roll with the flow either side. I don't pick sides. I can go with anything, any way. These are Gemini characteristics. These are in me. These are in me. And you find this stuff out as you begin to study electromagnetics, as you begin to study astrology. You start to figure out, that's why all these ancient people were basing life, were basing mythology on the stars, on the planets, on the sun, on the location of the earth. That's why. Because these resonations are real and they can be mapped out. And this was the whole beginning of the tarot and how all that happens. And then right here, you can see the tree of life, the Kabbalah there on the left. Okay. The world self-organizes in many different disciplines. So this is why you can find astrology in the middle of the Kabbalah. Okay. And the reason why I'm mentioning the Kabbalah is you have this column of severity there on the left, you see at the top, the column of consciousness and the column of mercy. Okay. These are pillars. These are resonances that these characteristics manifest with. So this map shows you, they're on the left looking at Boaz female. They're at the bottom, or here, let's look at the right, because that's sphere 4, the first sphere. So bottom right, where it says sphere 4, physical center, Yesod, the foundation. These are the cardinal signs. And see, those are the planets that align to this sphere 4. They resonate. Libra, what are these? Cancer. That one is Capricorn, you see? And these are cardinal signs that resonate with those lower chakras. And see, then you can also see the planets are color-coded on the right there. So you can see the ones that are blue resonate with that middle section. The ones that are pinkish color, like the sun, is the top section. Then you can see the more orangish color resonate with more of these body options. And you can, this map is just invaluable in helping you see these things. And then you can then understand why they associated these spheres that are in the Kabbalah with these planets, because the energies are associated. And so if you familiarize yourself with these characteristics, you can then begin to understand yourself better because you resonate with the stars, with the planets. You naturally do because you are an electromagnetic being. And so astrology in many ways has gotten a bad name because it simply is mapping out this electromagnetic frequency, these energies that permeate all these things. And typically what happens is like what happened here on Earth. You have this beautiful place and it became captured by this small group of people that turned it into a purgatory. You see? And so it wasn't that like that originally. It was turned into that. And so in the same way you have astrology, and it's this beautiful understanding of the world and reality. But then you have certain groups that come in and they try and capture that astrology and shape it in their own image. Same thing religion does to the world. You see, and this is how astrology, this is how different religions get a bad name because they're tainted by man's ideas, and that distorts the situation. Okay, well then this ends up causing what's called a birth chart. And what this is this here. This is the spirituality that underlies everything. This is the charting for me personally. My sun was in Gemini, so I'm Mercury is my major planet. I'm a communicator. I found that out. I didn't know that. I found that out when I began exploring this stuff. And so you can see the trines and the sextiles are simply angles, and this shows you which planets are aligning in a harmonic phasing, so that if it's not directly aligned, it will harmonize with that particular location, planet, and so forth because of its angle. And it shows you right here on the little map, it shows you that the trines are when two planets or stars or points align at 120 degrees, plus minus 7 degrees. This indicates flow, ease, synergy, bounty, and harmony. And then sextiles are when two planets, stars, or points align at 60 degrees. This indicates challenging dynamics, intensity, charge, collaboration, exchange, creativity, and opportunity. And let me put this to work for you. So let me show you something here. Okay. These are my cards. Okay. These are my cards. These are the cards that when I did the mathematics, there's a set of maths that you do, that you take your birthday, the year, the month, the location you were at on the planet, and the time you were born, and bing, right at that moment, you know, the entire astrological field is cut up like a astronomer, where you have different angles at one percentage point. And so what happens is every minute you're moving at a slightly different percentage point, and that changes the electromagnetics, the resonating frequency, you see. And so you have to figure out these vibrations, and then from that math, you then can determine which cards resonate with you. Now, to explain to folks that don't know what any of this means and tarot is new to you, tarot is a symbolistic system that's based on these cards. And there are many different pictures and so forth that you can use for the tarot. I like to use the Rider-Waite deck. That's what this is. And it comes out of Hermeticism and alchemy. Now, what you're looking at there on the top left is my soul card. Okay, that means that no matter how I manifest as a being in this universe, that soul card, that is my main energy. That follows me everywhere. My soul resonates at that frequency, strength. And it's uncanny how true these cards are for my life. I mean, this is insane how well these things line up. I found this out much after most of my life had passed. So when I found out these cards, I was blown away, because I was like, holy crap, that's exactly what I've experienced my entire life. So on the left is the soul card there that falls over there. And then you have the life energy cards. These are going to be the energies that you carry throughout your life. And isn't it poignant? Look at these two cards. You have the dude on the left that's waking up to the nightmare, and then you have the dude on the right that's walking away from it all. Okay? That's what happens. You wake up to the nightmare, you realize your entire life is an illusion, and you leave it. And that's what that is showing there on that card on the right. And then what happens is, if you have the courage, if you follow through, if you have it in you to keep going, you eventually will transform. So if you endure the nightmare and you endure walking into the wilderness and finding your own way, you will transform. And if you look at the characteristics of the star as compared to strength, you can see how, as I can see as an adult growing up, how I have changed in moving out of one way of understanding the world and then moving into another. So on the left there, to look at some of the symbolism, you see the infinity above her head. This is the mind of infinity, the mind of unmeasurable opportunity and thought. And notice that her hair is adorned in nature. So nature constellates this person's mind. And notice she's also girded with nature, with flowers and the beauty that is nature, the earth that is nature. And notice that she is wearing a white robe. And this is a signal of purity, innocence. And she is handling, and notice her right hand is bloody from doing it, but she is handling the lion's mouth. The lion represents challenge, fire, aggression. And if you notice there, it is quietness and peace that's going to calm the lion. And notice the lion is pure red. And this is exactly a model of what has happened in my life. I've found that everything around me is on fire. And I have had to accord these things. I've had to learn to accord them outside of the mindset, that's the infinity, of the mindset that was put into me. And part of that breakup was there, that second card. So beginning their life journey begins with the courage to confront inner and outer demons, using the soul's fortitude to face the anxiety and self-doubt that threaten to paralyze and terminate will. And this is what you're seeing in that card. You're seeing that modeled. Strength isn't brawn. Strength is here. Strength is found in the fortitude that you carry from birth. And that fortitude is in me. And so life, because of this energy that I have, I attracted a strong force that I would have to face. And so therefore the strength that I had was available. And this is basically nature saying, okay, here's your opportunity. You've been given this life. These are the energies that you have. There's nothing you can do to stop it. These are the characteristics you're typically going to carry in your life. That's the way it is. That's how you've harmonized. What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do? That's your opportunity. Do with it what you want. There are no rules. What are you going to do with it? How are you going to grow? How are you going to manifest your gifts? And it is always going to be, for me personally, it's always going to be constellating the strength card. So the more I studied the strength card, the more I began to understand myself. And it was the same thing in understanding what is happening to me when I woke up to Christianity and waking up to the idea that I'm living in conflict. And look at the bed he's sitting on. There's war and conflict happening on the very bed that he's sleeping. And the blanket signifies all the lies and nonsense he's been sleeping underneath his whole life. And he's waking up to that. That's why his head is in his hands. And notice his hair is gray. He's an aged figure. It's taken him his whole life to wake up. That's the pain and nightmares, realizing, oh my God, for the last 50 years, I've been living in a lie. And folks, that is a hard thing to accept. That's one of the reasons why people won't leave Christianity at such a late age. It's too much, man. They've shaped their whole life around it. So it's the courageous person that walks right into it and says, okay, if I need to change, I will change. If I need to change and adjust my thinking, that's the mature and responsible thing to do. I'm going to change my thinking. The world isn't what I was told. The responsible response is, okay, I will adapt. I will adjust. Because that's what responsible people do. And so that is what this card, the nightmare, is showing you. You're going to have to be responsible. You're going to have to step up if you're going to ever get out of that bed and move to this next card here. And this is, you're leaving everything. The cups are relationships. The cups are monetary value, meaning wealth. The cups are all the things that you've learned and the way you've shaped your mind inside those cups. And that's why he's walking away. And look, it's a somber moment. Look at this. Look at the moon that's in eclipse. It's a somber moment. Even the light is being shadowed by the moon in eclipse. In other words, you're going to face a hard road, friend, because when you get out of that bed, you're going to find the world is nothing like you thought, and it's going to be hard to adapt to it. That's what it's saying to you. And so this way, the card gives you encouragement and courage to step into the world. This is your destiny, friend. Go and meet your opportunity. And if you don't meet your opportunity, what happens? It's okay. You just don't transcend. You die in a smaller world than the world you were in. So that's the consequence. The consequence is that you never experienced the world that was available to you because you were too afraid to get out of the bed and go into it. And see that there's no fault, there's no wrong in that. It's just simply your choice. And so you will have a smaller life, a smaller experience, a smaller mind, a smaller reality, because that's the only reality you're willing to take on. Common sense. If I'm not willing to get out of bed and go apply for a job, I'm not going to get a job. I have to be willing to get out and go do the hard thing. If I'm in a relationship that's wrong and I'm at odds with someone, I'm going to have to go and deal with that relationship, or I will continue to be harmed by it. You see? And so then finally, you look at the transformation. First of all, the figure is naked, which is a sign of honesty, a sign of authenticity, a sign of being willing to reveal yourself to the world. So it's a sign of innocence. And then you have the pitchers. The pitchers are pouring out water. Water is knowledge. And so this person is fluent in both the land and sea knowledge. So this person understands both worlds, the solid world and the liquid world. So they can operate between modes, between spaces fluently. And notice that their knee is on the land, their foot is in the water. Again, they are grounded. And they are guided by what? The star, the great oneness that is all. And they are right there in the midst of nature. You see the pomegranate tree and the bird in the distance. This is a sign of peace and a sign of nature and a sign of according. Stars could be the Pleiades, the white stars. Again, revealing your humanness. Release opens the door to hope and inspiration, where one reconnects with divine purpose to find peace in the flow of a painful life. Thus, the pouring out of the lessons learned from hard experience. And that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And so by studying these cards, I was able to make better sense of my life. You see, that gave me hope, because it caused me to realize a deeper principle that was at work, a deeper resonation that was at work in me. And so when you calculate this stuff out and find your cards and you study those cards, what you begin to do is you begin to understand yourself more and more. You understand your motivations, why you are the way that you are, which encourages more appropriate behavior because you are self-actualizing. And the more I appreciate myself, the more appropriate I will behave. And I won't see myself as a mistake. I'll see myself as something, as a beautiful resonation of perfection that comes out of nature. You see, in these cards help in that. We're about out of time, so I'm just going to real quickly go to this one card. So the soul card imagery, a calm woman in a white robe adorned with a garland of flowers gently holds open the jaws of a lion. Above her head floats the infinity symbol, and the background features a serene landscape with mountains and a golden sky. The lion presents raw power, instinct, and the untamed aspects of the self. The woman, inner strength, compassion, and spiritual fortitude. The white robe, purity, and the triumph of gentleness. This is the reminder that it is gentleness that is going to win the day, not fighting. The flower garland, harmony, beauty, and the reward of patience. The infinity symbol, eternal resilience and boundless inner resources. The mountains, challenges overcome through quiet strength. Strength embodies courage, compassion, and the gentle mastery of instinct. A woman calmly tames a lion, her hands on its jaws, symbolizing the triumph of love over force. The infinity symbol above her head denotes eternal wisdom, while her white robe and flower garland reflect purity and beauty. This card embodies the mastery of the lower self, where true power lies in resilience and empathy, not aggression and self-aggrandizement. The serene landscape suggests harmony with nature and spirit. The deeper lesson is that strength is eternal, won through patience and understanding, teaching the seeker to overcome challenges with a quiet, compassionate heart rather than brute force. And that's one of the things I had to learn when I was doing these videos, is that I was too strong when I started. I yelled too much. It really was a weakness. It wasn't because I was mad. It was because I was overly passionate. And it's like putting bread into an oven that's too hot. You're gonna burn it before it's done. And it's the same thing that I had to realize with myself, that the strength that is within me can come across too strong and can really burn. And so again, this is all finding out about yourself so that you can behave appropriately by understanding who you are. because appropriate behavior is not going to be told to you. It's something that you see, you realize it. And by identifying with the card, you see yourself in the card. Well, see, this aligns you to nature. This combines you with the natural world that you're in. And so you don't see this as a problem. My stubbornness, I no longer saw as a problem. It just is something that I need to reshape. But there's nothing wrong with being stubborn. It comes in real handy from time to time. But at the same time, you don't want to be stubborn all the time. You need to have the balance. And it's the same thing. Sometimes I need that yelling strength if there's an accident happening or something. But most of the time, that strength needs to be contained. That fire needs to burn like a hearth, like a fire burning in the house. And through magnetism, warm the people that come into the room and burn like a fire in a way that doesn't burn them, but gives them warmth. And that's exactly what I had to learn to do in these talks, because I realized my voice was just it was too much, and it turns people off. And so again, this again is finding out about who you are. Why am I like that? Why am I yelling so much? Why am I so intense? Well, it's because I have these characteristics, these resonations in me, and they just simply need to be tamed. And that's the act that you're seeing in the card. The lion is being tamed through love, compassion, identity. Okay. Shoot, I am not going to get to what I wanted to, which was this. Doggone it. I wanted to get to this, thoughts about Christianity and all this stuff, man. What I'm going to do then, this was the letter. They wanted to know my thoughts on Jesus. So what I'm going to do next week is I will open up with that, with this set of words. I spent so much time on it this week. But I'm going to open up with this set of words, and then I spent so much time. Okay, I'll tell you what. What would you guys rather do? Would you rather I answer comments right now, or go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 slides and just read them to you? I'm going to go to comments. So would you guys rather me spend the rest of our time together commenting and answering your questions, or do you want me to read this thoughts about Christianity statement? There's about 5 pages of it. Where are my media assets here? Okay, so going to comments, keep going. Well, that's comments. 5 slides. Comments. Oh my gosh, it's 50-50. You guys. 5 comments or 5 slides. Slides. 1 more slides and I'm all of it. Okay, then we're going to do the slides. Here we go. Okay, media assets. Okay, so here we go. I would like to hear your thoughts on Jesus. Was he real or just another mythical person? Or did he have so much love, compassion, and see others so clearly with love that they killed him? I'm not sure about this part of the story. I'm clearly not a Christian, but I do believe that he lives with... I'm not a Christian, but I do believe that he lives within me, and my life is so much better. Now, that's interesting. I've never heard of a person who calls himself a Christian who says they're not a Christian, but Jesus lives within them. That's a new one for me. Thank you for that. Okay, so let's read. The key to seeing through Christianity is recognizing its implanted identity crisis. Without the crisis, there's no need for anything to save. So the key first step in introducing Christianity is establishing lack. This is done by labeling all people as sinners, and the idea of needing a savior is implanted through the inculcated idea of sin, lack, being spiritually tainted, which act as conflictive forces in the mind, that's the key word right there, to initiate resolution. So the first thing that's going to happen, problem, thesis. Everyone's a sinner, everything's fallen. That's the thesis, okay? So as we continue to look, the Christians' identifying architecture is a Hegelian dialectic or circular dialogue. Thesis, sinner. Antithesis, atonement. Synthesis, belief. You see? So the antithesis is atonement. So you get atoned for being a sinner. And then what does that happen? You then believe to your death that that's what you are. One causes the other, which results in the building of the two, synthesis. This is a well-known mind control technique used in MK Ultra victimization. So the initiator to the first action for the Christian is fear, the beginning of wisdom. You see how it works? See how it's twisted? That's why sin is the centerpiece of Eden, the beginning of the fall. Eden implants the sin egregore with guilt and shame. That's the lack. This implanted identity crisis, the lack, obscures objectivity and discernment because Believers of it enable their own identity crisis. Do you see? You enable your own identity crisis by believing the Hegelian dialectic, by following the dialectic. You see? And so you catch yourself. You are the motivator. Nobody is forcing you. You're buying it. You're buying the line. You're buying the idea of life that they're handing it to you, that they're handing to you. So no, you're the instigator here. You enable it. Okay, so keeping that in mind, the implanted sin crisis does not allow for reason because it is a terminal threat whose payment, death, could come at any moment. So objectivity, the pearls of perception that guide the individual, are tossed overboard to save one's life. The ends justifies the means. And the reason why I always am saying the ends justifies the means is because there's no rationality going on here. You're just going to save yourself. The ends justifies the means. So it doesn't matter that you're giving your brain to the catechism. It doesn't matter that you're giving away your brain to a religion. It doesn't matter. You're being saved from hell. The ends justifies the means. That's why it doesn't matter. You see, so what you're doing is you're dumbing the person down when you do this. Stop thinking, just do. Say the prayer. Believe what you're supposed to. Just do it. It doesn't matter if it costs you objectivity. It doesn't matter if it makes you intolerant. You have to be saved. Do you see? Trap. In the same way, if you don't know the larger picture consciousness, who you are, or the importance of awareness, discernment, what you are, you become a passenger in your own vehicle, the body, where and when you are, and so alienate yourself from the very essence, the ether, why you are. Does that make sense? Thoughts about Christianity. To understand is to realize via the heart compassion that there is no crisis to resolve because there is nobody to forgive. The body is an illusion. Separation is a body-based idea, not a heart-discovered realization. The heart, like nature, cares not what your mind thinks. That is why love isn't a choice. It is an identity. Have you ever thought about that? Love is not a choice. You choose if you want to foster it. You choose if you want to help it grow. But what you love, your attraction, that is not a choice. Attraction isn't a choice. You're magnetized. You're pulled because you're an electromagnetic being. So it's past mind. That identity, that love is past your mind. You magnate towards it. And life, nature, is going to bring to you things that you'll magnate to that will live in you, that will show you the deeper principle. You will naturally magnetize these things to yourself because life self-organizes. Self-organizes to help you grow. Okay. Christianity is implanted with belief, not realized through identity. Religion is a taught function, not a heart effectuation. This is why belief and ego function gets one to heaven in Christianity and not a realization, a heart function. Because a sinner can't trust their own heart, as the heart is a fallen enterprise. And that's the double bind. If a sinner can't be trusted, so if I can't trust myself as a sinner, how can I believe the idea, my own idea, that I am a sinner? Because I can't trust myself. I can't trust that I believe the pastor that tells me I'm a sinner because I can't trust my own judgment. This is the double bind. This is Eastern teaching. That's the double bind. Where without realizing it, you already are contradicting your own self because you put yourself into the double bind. That's what mind tricks do to you. And that's what the controllers have wanted to do to everyone, is to trick their mind into believing illusions, false realities, because then the person is captured. They're captured. Okay. Sin is a capture fear dialogue conjured in the mind with egregores, monsters put in by monsters. To believe in sin, then, is to believe in the egregore, the monster, the objectified sinner as an impetus to evil, Satan. This is the role. This is how you understand what Christopher was saying. This is the role Christians play that Burke's mentioned. This role Christian play, the role Christians play invites fear, Satan, to motivate action. Because what is motivating the person to be a Christian? The fear of being a sinner. The fear of being separated from God and having to have Jesus. There's your motivation. Because the mind has eaten the poisonous apple called sin, and so believes it is under threat, guilt, shame, separation, death, by monsters created by the authorities. And who creates the monsters? The authorities do. Christ's function, therefore, is blasphemed, as Christ's role, consciousness, was not to forgive anything, but to liberate one from mind traps, illusions, and corrupt authorities. And that's how you know the words of Jesus were tainted. Because the words of Jesus were claiming, I am the only way, true, and life, meaning you have to think, believe, and assume like me. And no guru would ever say that. No Eastern mystic would ever say something like that. And so that is why his words were twisted into that way, to capture you rather than free you. The good guru, the one that truly has your best interest, is always working to help you see your own freedom that you are keeping yourself from. Not to bind you into their idea, not to bind you into their concept. That's selfism, that's self-consumption. That's not going to lead to anywhere but doom. The consumption of the self. And so this is how you begin to see how the Catholic Church twisted the words so that you would be captured and not liberated. You would be captured by the religion, believing the religion, insisting the religion, depending on the religion, not freed from the religion, from the belief, to move beyond the beliefs the religion insists. Do you see? We are not the body. We are what animates it. So there's nothing to soil, because spirit or light or enigma or plasma, that's what you are, is not something that is tarnished or can become dirty or carry weight. Think about that. If you really believe that you are light, how do you dirty light? You can obscure it, you can block it, but how do you tarnish light? How do you tarnish plasma? You know, it's sort of like, how do you define infinity? Well, you can't. And so you can't tarnish light. So if you buy into this idea, if you subscribe to the idea that you are light, well, right there, you know you can't be tarnished by common sense. It's energy, a wave. That's what you are. Energy, a wave, a sacred resonance, consciousness. That's you. It's now you see it, now you don't. That's also you. Such things cannot be soiled any more than a laser can be soiled, or a flame can be soiled, or plasma can be soiled, or a singularity can be soiled. You, the real you, is exactly this way. There is no conflict. There is contrast. Your body is a contrast of who you are, a spirit, a counterpoint of the you within it, a muse. Its bounty is experience. Its contrasts reflect the resonant characteristics of the spirit that you are. What inspires you, what motivates you, what causes you, what rings your bell is the real you resonating within your emotional and sensorial states. Now imagine how ecstatic life would be if your emotional and sensorial states were not tied into a belief about yourself, where they could express themselves like an artist. Like, one of the worst things you can do to an artist is say, I want you to play these notes in this rhythm. I want the song to sound this way. I want these words. Well, you're taking away all the artist. You see, and when you have a human being, you have to follow these laws. You have to follow these rules. You have to do this exact way. You have to say this prayer. You have to follow this God. You see, you're removing all the artistry from you. You're removing all the authenticity that you bring, because all those authentic characteristics are going to have to be shaped into this system that's been put into your head. And so your artist expression, which comes out through your mind, what you express, your artist expression is always going to be hindered if you're tied in. And this common sense understanding doesn't require any theology. You don't have to win, quote unquote, with theology. You can understand what's happening here with common sense. Just common sense. You did not come here to obey, to follow the rules, or to lay prostrate or fear. By identifying as a center, the authorities manipulate a false obedience, an obedience that comes through separation, not identity. This is why you can't beat it in your child for them to have integrity. You can't beat integrity into a child. You foster it. You foster it. And it's the same with your spirit. It is fostered. We must get over the introjected, sin-consumed identity if we want to free ourselves. For if I place myself into an identity crisis, all freedom becomes relative to the identity I insist. Do you see it? That's logic. Because if I believe in just the world that's been put into my head, how big is my world? I've asked you guys this before. How big is my world? It's only as big as the one that was put into my head. And this is how you free yourself from bondage, from the bondage of assuming you're something that you're not. True freedom does not come through belief, the mind. It comes through realization, the heart. It comes through the heart by according, not through conflict or forgiveness. You see? According. There's no need for forgiveness when you're according. There's no need for conflict when you're according. You are blending in. Are you apologizing? Listen, when you accord with the stream of the river, are you apologizing? I'm so sorry. I'm going with the flow. I'm so sorry. No, of course not. Of course not. And it's the same with your life. Stop apologizing. Do you see what I'm saying in that? I hope you see the deeper principle that I'm saying that. You don't just take it for all fours. Moral of the story, the more I unbelieve, the more I disentangle myself, the more I release, the more I realize, the more I force, the more inauthentic life becomes. Love works in the exact same way. Freedom comes from the heart, not the mind. You are an experiencer, so the mind must be free to experience the authentic freedom that you are. You are here to experience the authentic world, not an instructed belief. And finally, the last slide, and we are done, ladies and gentlemen. So the whole idea of the Catholic Church and previous cultures cooked up was to claim the identity of the individual and therefore capture their potential and energy, their creativity, their motivations, their efforts, you see. You capture the being, you've captured their creativity, motivations, and efforts. Controllers entangle identity into a mind crisis and took with them the whole being. Once the identity is caught, the body, the creative manifester, is captured. Can you see? Can you see? All your creative out, like I just said, all your creative output is captured. This is why the world is an egregore, an illusion to capture you. So if you want to be objective and unbiased in understanding Jesus or Christianity, you must have the courage to release from the anxiety, the spiritual stigma and metaphysical bias, the Old and New Testament. Insist. Moral of the story, be careful who and what you allow into your mind. What do you guys think? Let's go to comments. I'm curious what you guys think. According means if I have, like I just said, a stream, I'm going to accord with the flow of the stream. When I flow, when I take my little kayak and I accord, I flow into the stream. In the car, I'm getting onto the freeway. I'm going to accord. I'm going to go with the the flow of the traffic. So if I'm going 20 miles an hour and I'm getting on the freeway, am I according? No. If I'm going 150 miles an hour on the on-ramp, am I according? No. I accord when I blend into it. It's the same thing with your natural being. You accord with it. You understand the deeper principles. You get past the extreme one side and the other, and you accord the gray line between the two fishes in the yin-yang, because that's where the action is. Between the worlds, not on one or the other. So according is walking into the space, accepting the space for what it is, accepting the nature being that you are, and learning to become appropriate within the culture that you exist. You are according. If I'm in conflict, if I'm fighting, I'm not according, am I? I'm fighting. I'm wanting my way. But when I'm according, I am walking into the flow. I am accord, like when I have a child. I accord my tutelage. I accord my teaching to the level of the child. I don't say, well, this is the way I think he should. No, what does the child need? How does the child learn? Do they learn visually? Are they sensorial? Do they need to go to Montessori school? Do they need more private? What? You know, learn the type of child. Are they a social butterfly and need to be in a social environment because they are blossoming, because they love to communicate? You need to get them in that environment. Accord them to the world. The sense of the world, not the sense that the religion puts into you, but the sense that natural law, nature, renders to you. You see, that's according. Okay. Yes, it is a Taoist principle. You are exactly right, Jeremy. Thank you. Okay. Someone said the song you wrote your Bible and no one hears. Okay. You guys got any questions before we bail? And I try and figure out what I'm going to talk about next week. Yes, indeed. Thank you, Rosa. Yes. Between the world. Yes, it is. Yes, it is, Gretchen. It is a wild journey, and it is often very lonely. Very lonely. What is this? I don't even know what this is. If your God is the same yesterday and forever, you must then also accept that God created humans and regretted it. He hated different people. It states that he hated. Well, that if that's a translation you have from the Bible, I mean, you know, it is what it is. I'm not going to agree or disagree with that, but you know, everybody's got a different take. Yes, they are, Gretchen. They are brainwashing machines. Yes, they are. Ginger, you are correct. It is very lonely. And the reason why for that, I'll speak to that because it's important. The reason why it's like that is because most of us, like I did, I grew up in a very small world, just surrounded by local friends and, you know, family and so on and so forth. And when you awaken, you break out of the world that you were raised in. And so the people that raised you, you're now getting your own ideas, and that's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for like if you're a parent and your child decides to say they're going to become an atheist. And so it's going to become a little bit more uncomfortable to have dialogue with them. You certainly can, but it's not going to have the flow that it used to. So you're going to have to, as a parent, adjust to be able to speak the language so that you can stay communicating with your child. As for this awakening stuff, some of this stuff is so far above the surface level that you can't relate to anybody. And it's extremely lonely. And so we have groups like this, times like this, where we can get together and we can share with each other. For those of us who see past the world, oh my goodness, that's my daughter. I can't believe, Jessica, you're watching this. Oh my goodness, Jessica, I love you, baby. I can't believe my daughter is here. Sorry guys, that completely shocked me. Oh my God. I love you so much, baby. Oh my God. Thank you so much, Jess, for being here. I can't believe you're here. Thank you so much for being here, baby. I can't believe it. Incredible, Jess. You are so full of surprises, baby. Oh my goodness. I can't believe it. Scott, yes, I understand, my friend. Wait, that's not Scott. Where'd he go? Here. Scott, yes, I understand completely. I've lost most of my friends, at least a closeness. I'm sure that if I got together with them, it'd be cordial. You know, I don't think there's any hate there. But I've left the planet in their mind. And it's hard, man. It's hard. It's really difficult. Yes, me too, Ginger. I'm also getting over it little by little. Any other questions? Any other questions? Really appreciate y'all being here, man. It's amazing you guys sit through all this. I cannot believe it. Yes, clarity is everything. I agree. Yeah, it's super hard, but very worth it. I fully agree. I love you guys. We've gone way past, and it's awesome. We were at 420 viewers. That's awesome. Love that. Here we are at 8:15. We've gone plenty long. I love you guys. I appreciate your being here. Jess, I can't believe you're here. Thank you for being here. I can't believe it. Thanks, everyone, for being here. I really appreciate and love all of you, and I've really enjoyed this time. I really have. So I'll look forward to seeing you guys next week. I'll see you later. I love you. I love you, Jess. Bye-bye. I cannot believe she was here.